Around 12,000 years ago, our ancestors were hunter-gatherers. They didn't farm, they didn't build, they followed animals and ate what they could find. They had stone tools and fire, and that was about it. And then, on a hill in what's now southern Turkey, those same people stacked 20-ton pillars of carved limestone into perfect rings. No metal tools, no wheel, no writing, no farming yet. Just hunter-gatherers, supposedly, building a temple that shouldn't have been possible for another 7,000 years. It's called Göbekli Tepe, and those pillars aren't blank, they're carved with foxes, scorpions, and vultures, animals rendered with a steady, practiced hand, the kind of skill that takes generations to develop. Generations we have no record of. And when archaeologists dated it, they didn't celebrate. They panicked, because it broke the timeline. And then it got stranger, because whoever built it didn't just walk away. They buried it. Deliberately. They packed the entire complex under tons of rubble, by hand, as if they were hiding it, or protecting it from something. What if someone showed them how? Here's the thing nobody likes to say out loud. For 200,000 years, humans did almost nothing. Anatomically, we've been us for around 200,000 years. Same brain, same body. And for the first 190,000 of those, we just existed. Bands of a few dozen people, stone tools that barely changed across thousands of generations. Then, in a geological blink, all of it happens at once. Agriculture, cities, writing, math, astronomy, metallurgy. Almost simultaneously in places that supposedly never spoke to each other. Egypt, Sumer, the Indus Valley, Mesoamerica, separated by oceans and thousands of miles. And all of them, independently, suddenly start building pyramids, tracking the stars, and organizing into kingdoms within the same narrow window. Either every isolated human civilization woke up on the same morning and had the same idea, or somebody handed out the same blueprint. Look at the stones. The Great Pyramid of Giza is built from over 2 million blocks, some weighing 80 tons, cut and fitted so precisely you can't slide a knife between them. It's aligned to true north with an accuracy that embarrasses modern surveyors. It was built, we're told, with copper tools and ramps. In Peru, the walls of Sacsayhuaman are made of boulders the size of cars, shaped into puzzle pieces that interlock without mortar. And they've survived earthquakes that flattened the Spanish buildings around them. In Lebanon, at Baalbek, there's a single cut stone that weighs over 1,000 tons. We don't have a crane today that could lift it cleanly. And then there's Puma Punku, high in the Bolivian Andes, almost 13,000 feet up. The stones there aren't just big, they look machined. Flat polished faces, sharp internal right angles, identical H-shaped blocks that look stamped from a single mold, drilled with holes spaced as evenly as if a machine had measured them. Cut with no machines we know of, by people we say had no written language, in a place so high and barren it could barely grow enough food to feed the workers who supposedly carved it. And every culture that built these things tells the same story. They didn't say, "We figured it out." They said the gods came down and taught us. We just wrote it off as mythology. But what if it wasn't mythology? What if it was a report? Because here's what's strange. They all describe the same visitors, beings that came from the sky. Sumerian tablets describe the Anunnaki, those who came down from the heavens. And these aren't vague legends scratched in after the fact. The Sumerians left whole libraries, tens of thousands of clay tablets, and the visitors are right there in their oldest records. Not as poetry, but as teachers who arrived, gave instructions, and left. Egyptian gods arrived from the stars and returned to them. In India, the Vedas describe Vimanas, flying machines with detailed accounts of how they moved and what powered them. Tribes with no contact, on different continents, all looked up, and all came back with the same story. Something came down, taught us, and left. When one culture invents a flood myth, that's folklore. When every ancient culture on Earth independently describes sky beings who gave them knowledge and then vanished, at the exact moment those cultures inexplicably leapt forward, that starts to feel less like a story and more like a memory. And then there are the objects. In 1901, divers pulled a corroded lump of bronze out of a shipwreck near the Greek island of Antikythera. Inside was a machine, dozens of precision gears, designed to predict eclipses and track the planets. It's 2,000 years old. We didn't build anything that complex again for 14 centuries. In Egypt, there are carvings that look unsettlingly like light bulbs. In Colombia, gold figurines from 1,000 years ago that look exactly like modern aircraft, down to the swept wings and tail fin. In Iraq, clay jars that, when filled with acid, generate an electric current. Batteries, 2,000 years before electricity was discovered. And some of it you can only see from above. In the Peruvian desert, scratched across hundreds of square miles of ground, are the Nazca Lines. A hummingbird, a monkey, a spider, drawn so enormous that standing among them you'd never know they were there. From the ground, they're nothing. They only resolve into anything at all from the air, which leaves one quiet, uncomfortable question. Who were they drawing them for? And then there's a map. In 1513, an Ottoman admiral named Piri Reis drew the world. It places the coast of South America correctly against Africa, and beneath it, a landmass that looks unsettlingly like the coastline of Antarctica. A continent no one would officially discover for another 300 years, whose true coast is buried under ice we only mapped with radar in the last century. He said he copied it from older maps we no longer have. One of these is a coincidence, maybe two, but the pile keeps growing, and every one of them is a piece of knowledge that showed up thousands of years too early, then disappeared, like a tool left behind by someone who wasn't supposed to leave it. And this isn't just late-night television. In 1968, a NASA engineer and astrophysicist named Hermann Oberth, one of the founding fathers of modern rocketry, the man who mentored Wernher von Braun, said he believed extraterrestrials had visited Earth. Carl Sagan himself, the most rational man in the room, co-wrote a paper in 1966 entertaining the idea that Earth could have been visited by an advanced civilization in the distant past. He didn't dismiss it. He said it was worth investigating. Even Enrico Fermi's famous question hangs over all of it. In a galaxy this old, with this many stars, where is everybody? If intelligent life is common, someone should have come knocking long ago. So maybe the real question isn't whether they'd visit. It's, how would we even recognize it if they already had? But here's where I have to be straight with you, because mainstream archaeology has answers. Good ones. Göbekli Tepe? Hunter-gatherers were smarter and more organized than we gave them credit for. The building came first, and farming followed to feed the workers. The pyramids, ramps, levers, copper tools, and a staggering amount of organized human labor can move those stones. The ancient batteries were probably for electroplating jewelry. The aircraft figurines are almost certainly stylized birds or fish. The Nazca Lines could be ceremonial paths, walked in ritual, not signals to anyone above. And the Piri Reis map's Antarctica is more likely just a distorted, guessed-at southern coastline, bent to fit the edge of the page. And the sky gods? Humans have always explained the unexplained by pointing up. Thunder was anger. The harvest was a gift. Of course they credited knowledge to the heavens. That's just what people did. The honest truth is that human beings are extraordinary. We don't need aliens to explain our genius. We've always been the species that builds the impossible. That's the whole point of us. To say, aliens did it, can be a quiet insult to the ancestors who actually dragged those stones up that hill. So that should settle it. Except for one thing it doesn't quite explain. The timing. Not the building, the leap. Why, after 200,000 years of near-total stillness, did everything change at once, in the same few thousand years, across a planet of people who couldn't have coordinated it? Climate shifted, yes. Population grew, yes. But civilization emerged. And why then, and why everywhere at once, are two different questions. And the second one still doesn't have a clean answer. We have pieces, we don't have the whole picture. And that gap, that one stubborn gap, is where the question lives. Look, they probably didn't come. The evidence is thin, the human explanations are strong, and every anomaly has a quieter, more likely story behind it. We almost certainly did it ourselves, but almost certainly isn't certainly. And it's worth sitting with what the ancients actually told us. Every one of them, on every continent, looked at their greatest achievements and pointed at the sky. Maybe that's just superstition. Or maybe, a very long time ago, something came down, lit a spark, and left us to build the fire ourselves. If they never came, then we are the strangest thing this planet has ever produced, a species that taught itself to move mountains. And if they did, then somewhere out there is someone who remembers visiting us, who watched what we became, and who might, one day, come back to see what we did with the gift.